And we welcome Tim Rogers to noise11.com. It's always a pleasure to hear new music from you, Tim. And this time round, I mean, we've got a bit of a sequel going on from 20 years earlier.
23 years, yeah. It's good to see you too, Paul. And I guess that when I told the Twin Set people and Andy, my manager, and I spoke to my literary agent was actually one of the first people I can, because I was starting to write a book this year. And I said to her and Andy concurrently, look, I've got this idea for a record. Strange coming from me, but do you think it's too portentous or pretentious? And they said, no, I'd never heard of that kind of idea before. So let's hear what you've got. And I already had the songs written and I edited them quite a bit. There were about 4 or 5 different iterations of each song because I wrote them during the stage play, What Rhymes with Cars and Girls, while the action was going on. It was a little exercise that I was trying to use to stop having such bad stage fright. And so I could present them pretty quickly. And before they heard the music, I sent the lyrics to my agent and Andy, and then finally Jen Anderson, who produced the first Twin Set record. And their enthusiasm was the reason I pushed it forward and wanted to get this great band together. If either of those people had said, nah, it's a bit much, I would have just shelved it and thought, oh, that was a good writing exercise. And
yeah, getting the original cast together, I mean, how difficult was that for those that were still around?
Yeah, some are dead, unfortunately. That's big elements of that band are dead, which is heartbreaking. And our drummer Ian Kitney is now living in Japan, and we tried to get him back, but he's got a family over there, and just because I guess it's was paying for it, and rightly it should be, but just not in a position to be able to fly Ian back and put him up. So we'll do something together in the future. But most of Ed Bates and Pete Lawler singing, Sally Dasty singing, absolutely. But Jen Anderson, Squeezebox Wally. But getting Jen on board was the big one. You know, she was my collaborator on that first record. And since the first Twin Set tour was really short, I mean, there's a lot of shows packed in. There's probably 40 shows packed into 2 months. But after that, we really didn't play again together. So it was a big deal that Jen and I mostly could get back together and make this record and tour.
That first record was 28-year-old Tim. Now we're at 52-year-old Tim. It's not so much a second album or not even a sequel, really, is it? It's almost like that 52-year-old guy is talking to the 28-year-old guy.
Yeah, I'm 53 actually, Paul. But you know,
shaving a few years off you just to make you look younger.
If I look 52, I'll take that. Yeah, thank you. That's a very, very big compliment. I ran into Sam Sajavka at a coffee store. I was back in St Kilda playing cricket, and I think Sam's probably 60 now, and he doesn't live far from where I live in country Victoria, and he just looked so amazing, and for his rather storied past, I thought, wow, there's hope for all of us. But yeah, I think, and I'd forgotten about this until a few weeks ago. Jennifer Egan, the New York-based author, I had to review a book of hers last year for the ABC book show, and her latest novel was a sequel of sorts to a novel of hers called Welcome to the Goon Squad from about 15 years ago, and this new one, The Candy House. And she took elements that were sequelized and then introduced other characters, and that's kind of okay, because I mean, to think that even in that passage of life from 28 to 53, so many more characters have come into my life and then others have left, and so I didn't think that every stone needed to be turned and the moss examined and the lichen, that I could do a sequel without making everything a direct reply to the first album, I thought that would be unnecessarily strict. And strange enough, with songwriting, you have to let your instinct take over sometimes, and songs will make sense in years that you had an inkling that you're doing the right thing and you're acting on instinct, and then 3 years later you'll be singing it somewhere in Bunbury and you go, oh, that's why I did it. It makes sense. And maybe that's dementia, or it's just allowing yourself to work on instinct. I'm not sure. I'll let you know when I find out.
Yeah. There's that old saying about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, was there a sense of having to go back to the first record and deconstructing it and see how the DNA of it went together before you could put this one together?
Well, the stage show kind of solved that, because Aidan Fennessy wrote the play. I didn't, but he asked me to be involved in it. Probably when we started the play, he was ill, and he's my age, and it was a complete shock. Aidan's history with writing plays, and he was at the head of the Melbourne Theatre Company for a number of years there. His wife, Nova Wheatman's a magnificent writer, beautiful family. It's a little bit, I guess, of a tribute to he and to Stewie Speed, who was in the original Twin Set. I didn't want to write any songs directly addressing either Aidan, particularly Aidan, because it still feels a little too raw. I still expect him to kind of pop up on ringing me on the telephone. But I think as far as sequels go, Paul, I think we're done with them for now. There was a bit of time at the worst of the pandemics, and I'd get letters from people asking to send them a video of Heavy Heart, or one of those older songs, and I did, but I said, look, I'm going to write a sequel to that song, or to Berlin Chair, just as a writing exercise, but I'm not going to make it a thing. As you said, I think that this was an attempt, and who knows whether it's successful or not artistically, but songs that you write, you can't go back and correct everything you've done. That seems a bit fruitless. I'd rather just move on to the next thing. The next Jill My record, the next Hard Ons record comes out in about 2 months, and starting a new Bamboos record in a couple of months as well. So I'm enjoying this immensely while it's happening, but let's leave the sequels alone.
I guess with the live shows for the Twin Set, it is very much in between the goalposts of the two albums, isn't it? Nothing really fits from outside those other bands. No,
we can, as a band with the Twin Set, we are jumping between those two records, and we haven't got a concrete set list, because we're kind of working it out as we go, and that's okay, I think, because there are a few players who weren't on the first record. We can see those songs with fresher eyes, I guess. Nothing feels like too much of a dusty old coat at the moment. It's more like a chiffon blouse. That's a terrible analogy. I really should get some sleep one day. We're just sort of jumping in between the two records. And then I think even now, only 6 shows in, you can feel us in soundcheck starting, let's work on something new. Let's get something new getting together. We've got it such a good thing, and the type of musicians that we have, Jeff Concy and Ruben Shannon and Davey and Jen. Everyone's kind of wanted to, let's keep this party going. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, you mentioned Hard Ons there. It must have been a real thrill when you did that first album. I wasn't expecting that it would develop into a second album.
I just, each day is a surprise and a pleasure, and we had such fun on the tours for that first record. We thought, just sort of, why not? We've been friends for so long, and we're becoming even closer because we're just spending consecutive weeks with each other. And then Blackie just sent me 25 new songs and said, would you like to collaborate on some lyrics and write some lyrics for these songs. I said, Flip Wilson, yeah. And then they said, well, look, we'll fly up to Sydney and let's make this record. And I said, fuck that, excuse my language, I'm jumping in the car, I'm coming up, I'm driving up. And, they're the hardest working people I know in their day jobs and getting together tours and everything's such a cottage industry, much in the way that UMI is these days. We just seem to have a bigger operation with UMI for some reason. But the Hardlands European tour, which we're doing in about a month and a half, similarly, it's kind of, you just make sure everything's in place, and then you just press the pedal down and you just go and hope you come back. But the new records it just kind of goes further out there with everything that we tried on the first record we did together. It's every day is a surprise for me, really. I keep telling him, I don't mind if this happens, and I know that they're possibly doing something with another singer soon, and I'm always going to be a fan. I'll always be there, whether I'm on stage with them or not.
Yeah. When you're doing, whether it be Temperate Union or Bamboos or UMI or this project, they're all different shades of Tim Rogers. But when you do those complete album shows, like when you're getting up and doing Exile on Main Street with Tex and the others, is that a sense of almost like being an actor, that you're up there and recreating somebody else's work at that point?
There's a little bit of that. But then what happens, Paul, is that the 16-year-old just takes over, in that with most of the tribute things I've had to do. And look, honest, I'm a little ambivalent about doing them because, and we try and always mention to people, hey, we know you're enjoying these, but there's some kids playing up the road for $5, give them a chance as well. Now, a lot of people aren't going to do that, but it's a mix of this. The 16-year-old Tim would want to kill me if I said no to doing any of those shows, because they are essentially just fantasy land. But you want to make sure that, we're a music community, and want to make sure that what people are writing and stuff that's original is getting out there. But anyway, that's my cross to bear. So, yeah, doing it, particularly the Stones ones, because I was, and still am, such a fan. I don't actually move like Mick Jagger at all. I don't sound like him. I don't look like him. Similarly with doing the White Album stuff, I don't look or sound anything like those guys. And so it's really just the 15-year-old me living out a fantasy. And I think that's the best way to serve it, because I'm not a musical performer. I'm a really good friend of Hugh Sheridan's, for example. I love that man. And he and I talk about that quite a bit, where he can do representations of people, and he goes further into that, or Tex, when he's doing the Johnny Cash show, you can see him move into that a little more, and he does that so well because he does it as himself. And it's interesting, but I prefer just to, rather than think about it too much and psych myself out and have a little anxiety episode, to just think, right, tonight I'm 15-year-old Tim Rogers, but just instead of stealing my mum's clothes, I've got my own wardrobe.
and when you say you don't have the steps of Mick Jagger, I've seen the show. You have moves like Jagger.
They're dancing's my second favourite thing to do it's probably my second favourite thing to do in the world, and it's what I love doing. And so those shows, it just lets you loose. But Mick's got his moves, and I'm sure that a little bit of what he did in the past has come through, because I'm such a big fan. But I'm really not acting a part. I'm acting the 15-year-old myself.
Yeah. Well, after being started with live music for the last couple of years, this year we've definitely got the twin set. There will be Bamboos, Hard-Ons, a couple of those tributes popping up. You're going to be a busy man, Tim.
Yeah, well, it's ruining my day jobs, Paul. I got some good work going on out here. working in gardens and lawn mowing, and it's mucking that up. But I'm not complaining and just trying to make sure I'm able to get to shows in a half decent state and just give back. Let's all celebrate. It's been a bit of an extremely tense time for a lot of people, and if we can supply a little bit of succour and a little bit of relief and just joy, then I feel that we're doing our job pretty well.
Okay, Tim Rogers, good to see you at Noise 11.
It's good to see you, Paul. All my best to you, mate.
All the best to you. Thanks for that.